Today, I want to talk about some sort of theory that I had. I think this is more well documented, but I don't really remember the name of what this is actually called. But there's a name for it. I just can't remember what it is. It's the idea that depending on what president you had during your formative years, is the party you'll be more aligned with. So, for instance, if you grew up in your most formative years under Obama, you are more likely to vote Democrat in the future. If you had your most formative years under Ronald Reagan, you are more likely to vote Republican in the future. You understand what I'm saying here? And I'm proposing the theory that this pattern has broke within the U.S. Before 2016, it used to be that. It used to be if you grew up under Jimmy Carter, you'll vote Democrat. If you grew up under Bush, you'll vote Republican. And Trump came along and broke it. And I just want to talk about that for a minute, because I think it's really, really interesting. I had my most formative years under Donald Joseph Trump, yet I don't like to label myself anything at all, because I hate doing that, but I think I'm more left-leaning compared to my parents, who are extremely right. So the idea is that Bush got kicked out of presidency in 2008 because of some very unpopular wars he was having. And in walked, by sheer magnificence, Mr. Barack Hussein Obama. And this is where I'm going to start the idea, the thought experiment. So, Barack Obama was in the presidency for 4 years at that point. So that's 4 years of children who grew up and had their most formative years under Obama being more left-leaning because of him. Okay? That's 4 years. And then in 2012, he got elected for a second time. Well, now it's not 4 years, it's 8 years. And at this point, what usually happens through history is the opposite party takes hold, okay? And you offset the 8 years of left-leaning kids by another 4 or 8 years of right-leaning kids. Well, the Republicans, I believe at this time, were a little bit concerned that they weren't going to win another election ever, because a lot of kids coming out of college had a lot of left-leaning ideals, and unless the Republican Party could massively change who they were, a lot of the younger voters would vote left. Like, Bernie Sanders got extremely popular in this time, right? So the Republicans did a Hail Mary. Yes, like the movie, Hail Mary, Project Hail Mary. They did a Hail Mary and decided to push Trump through the primaries. Donald Joseph Trump, who at the time was some like slimy businessman from New York. He was not taken seriously at all. He was a slime ball. He was known for being for WWE, known for like properties and putting his name on ties and shit. He was not known as a political figure, and yet here he was. And the Republicans pushed him through primaries, and what happened was he's very good at making cults. I'm not sure if you know this. He's a very good cultsman. So he absolutely subverted everyone's expectation by actually just barely squeezing out the win. And when I say barely, I mean barely. He's one of like only 4 presidents who lost the popular vote but won the electoral vote, which is fucked up. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. More people in the US wanted Hillary Clinton to be in office, but Trump won the states. It's kind of fucked up how that works. Actually, I disagree. It's really fucked up how that works. Anyways, so Trump's first term was very bad. I'm not going to say it was catastrophic. I'm going to save that for a second term, but his first term was relatively pretty bad. He was in the news headlines constantly for fucking things up, or he has some new scandal, Mar-a-Lago, shit like that. And I think this is when the system of having most formative years under a president kind of started to break. And no longer were these kids who grew up under Donald Trump more likely to be right-leaning. The kids who grew up under Donald Trump saw all the headlines and how bad he was making the country, and they decided to be more left-leaning instead, because they saw what the right had to offer and said, no thank you. So not only did you have 8 years under Obama, but now you had another 4 of Trump's first term. So now it's not 8 years, it's 12 years. 12 years of children growing up on being left-leaning. Okay? This is pretty bad for the Republicans, okay? Historically, this is pretty bad. Because once these kids get to voter age, they're gonna be overwhelmingly voting left now. And then, as we know, 2020 happened, and despite what Trump says, Biden won the presidency. And now, to be fair, Biden wasn't exactly a great president. I personally don't like some of the things he did. I think he was not tough on the Republicans enough. He's definitely a moderate where he tries to shake hands across the aisle. Oh, I'm sorry. He tries to shake hands across the aisle and gets less done because of it. He's not willing to burn bridges. But in comparison to what's going to happen next term, Biden looks like a fucking saint. So now you have another 4 years under a Democrat president. So let's do the math. So we have 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 straight years of left-leaners. Well, you think the Republican Party is going to freak out, right? You think they're going to see the writing on the wall and are going to be like, oh shit, we gotta solve this. Well, no, actually. I believe that the Republican Party had a very, very interesting idea of how to deal with this 16 years of left-leaning children growing up and who are shortly going to become voting age. Okay? And this is what they're going to do. Instead of, like, I don't know, fixing their issues, instead of disowning Donald Trump, saying we're never going to do this again, we're sorry, instead of electing like an actually competent Republican, they decided to double down on Trump. Because here's the thing. Although we have 16 years of left-leaning kids who are growing up seeing how terrible the Republicans are, there's a lot more before them, a lot older people who are extremely right-leaning. Anybody over the age of like 45, I think, 40, 45, are more likely to be right-leaning than not. So what the Republicans did is they rallied the old people and said, hey, old people, they're trying to take your guns! And because once again, Trump is a great cult leader, he rallied the old people and got them to elect him once again. And this is also compounded by the fact that there was a lot of Democrats, a lot of left-leaning people who didn't like Kamala Harris because, number one, she entered the race way too late, and number two, just like Biden, she wasn't really tough on a lot of things and didn't have any, like, staunch left-leaning ideals. Of course, she did have some, I'm not denying that, but a lot of Democrats decided to sit out the election because they didn't want to, they didn't like either of the candidates. Which is fucking stupid, but besides the point. So with both these things combined, Donald Trump got elected in 2024. And I'm sure you know, this second presidency is unlike any other presidency in history. You look back at all the worst presidencies in the world, and you cannot find a presidency half as bad as this one. The worst presidency that people know of is like Nixon. Nixon spied on Democrats, and he got like almost impeached for it. Like, it was bad. It was very, very bad. Like, in comparison, Nixon looks like a fucking saint. I mean, Nixon, like, in the moment under his presidency, a lot of people actually liked Nixon. It wasn't until after his presidency, when a lot of the shit came out of what he did, that people started to not like him. But at least in the moment, a lot of people liked Nixon, right? With this presidency, nobody fucking likes Trump. I say nobody. Of course, I'm sure you, the viewer, have like an aunt or uncle or your father who is super MAGA and will never change. I know, but I'm just saying generally, a lot of people are off of Trump now because they see how catastrophically bad his presidency has been. And like I said earlier, the Republicans are trying to squeeze as much power as they can out of the US right now because I think that they believe and they think that this might be their last presidency. Because they fucked up tremendously. And even, let's just go all the way back, even during Bush's presidency, his second half of his presidency was terrible, even then. So if you want to count that on top of the total, that would be 20 years of left-leaning children. But I don't think that Bush's presidency was that bad. I know the popular opinion online is that Bush was a terrible fucking person, and his presidency absolutely fucking sucked, but I genuinely don't think his presidency is that bad. Even his second term, which was pretty not good. I think it might just be the fact, though, that I've only ever grown up under Donald Trump. I don't have any memories of Obama. I don't have any memories of Bush. I only ever know Trump and Biden. And by comparison, Bush's presidency looks pretty fucking good right now. I would take anything for another Bush. So yeah, I think the GOP is squeezing out all they can out of the US right now. It reminds me of Harley Davidson. If you don't know, Harley Davidson is a motorcycle company who makes motorcycles that are big, gas guzzling, like engines sound like they're falling apart, big things that were really popular with older people. And the new Harley Davidson CEO tried to modernize for kids. I keep saying kids, for the younger generation, but they found out that the younger generation do not like Harleys. And no matter how hard they try, they could not get the younger generation to drive Harleys. And what ended up happening was Harley Davidson said, fuck it, let's just go all in and try to make as much money on old people until the company goes bankrupt. And so they've been targeting old people like hell within the past year because they're trying to squeeze as much money out of them before they die and Harley goes bankrupt. / they give Harley to a younger CEO who is holding the bag open, right? That I feel like it's the same thing that's happening now with the government. They know that they can't appeal to younger people, at least not as much as they did in the past. Of course, you have Turning Point USA and shit like that, and Nick Fuentes, but generally they can't talk with kids the same amount as they did back then. And so instead of trying to appeal to younger voters, which they try to do, like I said, Turning Point USA, instead of trying to appeal to younger voters, they're saying, fuck it, let's just try to make life as good as possible for the billionaires while we still have the power to do so. And I think this was happening. Anyways, that's about it for today. I just want to talk about that for a minute. My personal theory of why kids nowadays are becoming so left-leaning is because 20 straight fucking years of bad Republicans. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. Remember, kids, always tolerate tolerance, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye!